If you love shocking family drama, hit subscribe now. You're about to hear something unbelievable. Hello, my name is Ethan Cross. I'm 26 years old, and I work as a software engineer in Austin, Texas. Austin's a city that pulses with energy, live music spilling from every corner, food trucks serving the best tacos you've ever tasted, and tech companies rising like glass monuments against the hill country sky. It's a place where dreamers come to reinvent themselves, and that's exactly what I thought I was doing when I moved here 3 years ago. But tonight, as I sit in my cramped apartment overlooking South Lamar, staring at the email that just shattered my world, I realize some truths have a way of finding you no matter how far you run. I grew up in a small town called Cedar Falls, Iowa, population 8,000, where everyone knew everyone and secrets were currency. My family owned Cross Hardware, a store that had been passed down through 4 generations. My father, Michael Cross, was the kind of man who commanded respect without saying much. Broad shoulders, calloused hands, and eyes that could read a person's character in seconds. My mother, Sarah, was the town's unofficial therapist, the woman everyone confided in over coffee and homemade pie. Then there was my older brother, Jake. Golden boy Jake, who could throw a football 60 yards, charm every girl in 3 counties, and somehow make our parents beam with pride just by walking into a room. Jake was everything I wasn't. Confident where I was anxious, athletic where I was bookish, popular where I was invisible. Growing up, I accepted my role as the spare son, the backup plan, the one who would inherit the hardware store when Jake inevitably moved on to bigger things. I spent my afternoons organizing inventory, learning the difference between Phillips head and flathead screws, memorizing the weight of various nails. Dad would nod approvingly when I got something right, but his real enthusiasm was reserved for Jake's football games, Jake's dates, Jake's plans for college. "Ethan's our steady one," Mom would tell her friends, and I knew that was code for not particularly special, but reliable. I told myself I was okay with that. Someone had to keep the family business running, right? Everything changed during my senior year of high school. Jake was away at Iowa State on a football scholarship, and for the first time I had my parents' undivided attention. I discovered I had a talent for computers, spending hours building websites and learning programming languages. When I showed Dad a simple inventory system I'd built for the store, his eyes lit up in a way I'd never seen before. "This is incredible, son," he said, studying the screen. "You could really make something of yourself with this." For 6 months, I basked in that approval. I got accepted to UT Austin for computer science, and my parents seemed genuinely proud. Then Jake got injured during spring practice, a torn ACL that ended his football career. Suddenly, the golden boy was back home, directionless and bitter. I'll never forget the night I overheard my parents talking in the kitchen. I'd come downstairs for water and heard my name. "Maybe Ethan should stay," Mom was saying. "The store needs someone, and Jake's going through such a hard time." "It makes sense," Dad agreed. "Ethan's always been better with the business side anyway. Jake needs time to figure things out." My stomach dropped. They were planning to sacrifice my future for Jake's comfort, and they were discussing it like I was a chess piece to be moved around the board. I confronted them the next morning. The conversation didn't go well. "You're being selfish, Ethan," Mom said, her voice sharp. "This family has always looked out for each other. Jake needs us right now." "What about what I need?" I asked, but Dad just shook his head. "Sometimes we have to put family first, son. The store is your heritage. Don't throw it away for some pipe dream." But I did throw it away. I left for Austin that fall, despite their protests, despite Jake's wounded looks, despite the guilt that ate at me every day. I told myself I was fighting for my future, but part of me wondered if I was just running away. The first few years in Austin were hard. I worked part-time jobs to supplement my loans, lived on ramen and hope, and called home less and less frequently. When I did call, the conversations were stilted, full of unspoken resentment. Jake had taken over managing the store, though from what I could gather, he wasn't particularly good at it. "He's trying his best," Mom would say defensively when I asked how things were going. "Not everyone can be a computer genius like you." The sarcasm in her voice stung more than she probably intended. I graduated with honors, landed a job at a growing tech company, and slowly built a life for myself. I had friends, a decent apartment, even dated a few women seriously. But there was always this hollow feeling, like I was performing a role rather than living authentically. I sent money home when I could, hoping it might bridge the gap between us, but my parents' acknowledgments were always brief and formal. Last Christmas was the breaking point. I flew home for the first time in 2 years, hoping maybe enough time had passed for us to reconnect. The hardware store looked run down, with half-empty shelves and a dusty, neglected feel. Jake was there, but he seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone and making excuses to leave early. During Christmas dinner, I tried to share some of my recent successes, a promotion, a project I'd led that saved the company significant money. My parents listened politely, but I could see their attention drift whenever Jake spoke about his plans to modernize the business. "Maybe I could help," I offered. "I could build you a better inventory system, maybe even an e-commerce site." Jake laughed, not kindly. "No offense, Ethan, but this is a hardware store, not some Silicon Valley startup. We know our customers." Dad nodded along. "Jake's right. We've been doing things the same way for generations. It works." I left Cedar Falls the next day, 2 days earlier than planned, with the distinct feeling that I was no longer welcome in my childhood home. That was 8 months ago. Since then, our communication dwindled to birthday cards and occasional texts. I threw myself into work, got another promotion, started dating Emma, a brilliant marketing manager who made me laugh and challenged me to be better. I was building something real, something mine. Then tonight happened. I was at Emma's apartment cooking dinner and telling her about my day when my phone buzzed with an email from a law firm in Cedar Falls. My first thought was that something had happened to my parents. An accident, maybe, or health problems they hadn't told me about. But as I read the email, my blood turned to ice. "Dear Mr. Cross," it began, "we regret to inform you that your grandfather, Robert Cross, passed away last week. As per his final wishes, you are requested to attend the reading of his will this Friday at 2 p.m. Grandpa Robert. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year, though we'd always had a special relationship when I was younger. He was the one who'd taught me to appreciate craftsmanship, who'd shown me that there was artistry in building something with your hands. He was also the one who'd encouraged my interest in computers, saying that innovation was just another form of building. But what shocked me wasn't the news of his death. He'd been in poor health for years. What shocked me was that apparently he'd died a week ago, and my family hadn't bothered to tell me. They'd held a funeral, grieved together, made arrangements, and I'd known nothing about it. I called Mom immediately, my hands shaking as I dialed. "Oh, Ethan," she said when she heard my voice, and I could hear the guilt there. "I was going to call you." "When?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "After the will reading? After you'd figured out if I was worth including?" "It's not like that," she protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Things have been so complicated. Jake's been handling everything, and with the stores struggling..." There was a long pause. "We didn't want to worry you. You have your own life now." That phrase, "your own life," hit me like a physical blow. As if my life was separate from theirs by choice, as if I'd abandoned them rather than been pushed away. "I'll be there Friday," I said quietly. "Ethan, maybe it's better if you don't come. This is a difficult time for the family, and..." I hung up before she could finish. Emma found me sitting on her couch, staring at nothing. She sat beside me, taking my hand without saying anything. That's one of the things I love about her. She knows when to speak and when to just be present. "I have to go back," I said finally. "I know," she replied. "Do you want me to come with you?" I squeezed her hand. "Not yet. I need to face this alone first." The flight to Cedar Rapids felt endless. I kept replaying memories of Grandpa Robert, his patient explanations of different wood grains, the way he'd light up when I showed interest in his work, the pride in his voice when he'd introduce me to customers as my grandson, the smart one. He'd always made me feel seen in a way my parents never quite managed. I rented a car at the airport and drove the familiar route to Cedar Falls, watching the landscape shift from city to farmland to the small downtown I'd once known by heart. The law office was in a converted Victorian house on Main Street, and I arrived 15 minutes early, needing time to prepare myself. When I walked into the conference room, the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. My parents sat on one side of a polished table, Jake beside them, all three wearing black, and expressions of barely concealed hostility. They looked older than I remembered, more worn down, but there was no warmth in their greetings. "Ethan," Dad said with a curt nod. "Michael, Sarah, Jake." I took a seat across from them, noting how they'd unconsciously closed ranks against me. The lawyer, a thin man named Peterson, cleared his throat and began reading from a thick document. Most of it was standard legal language, but then he reached the section that made everyone sit up straighter. "To my grandson Ethan Cross," Peterson read, "who inherited my love of building and creating, who understood that innovation and tradition can coexist, I leave my workshop, all tools contained therein, and my collection of handwritten journals documenting 4 generations of cross-family craftsmanship." I felt a warm glow at this recognition, even as I saw Jake's jaw tighten. But Peterson wasn't finished. "Furthermore," he continued, "having observed with great concern the declining fortunes of Cross Hardware and the lack of vision shown by current management, I hereby leave my entire financial estate, including stocks, bonds, and savings totaling approximately $847,000, to Ethan Cross, with the stipulation that these funds be used to either revitalize the family business or establish a new venture that honors the Cross family tradition of quality craftsmanship." The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at Peterson, certain I'd misheard. $847,000? Grandpa had been living in a modest house, driving an old truck, wearing the same flannel shirts for 20 years. How had he accumulated that kind of money? Jake was the first to explode. "This is bullshit," he shouted, jumping to his feet. "I've been running that store for 3 years. I've been here, taking care of the family, while he pointed at me accusingly, ran off to play with computers." "Jake, calm down," Mom said, but her voice was shaky. Dad's face had gone pale. "There must be some mistake," he said to Peterson. "My father wouldn't have done this without discussing it with us." Peterson handed him a sealed envelope. "Mr. Robert Cross left this letter for the family. He specifically requested it be read after the will." Dad opened it with trembling fingers and began to read aloud. "To my son Michael and daughter-in-law Sarah, I am disappointed in how you've treated Ethan. You pushed away a son who only wanted to make you proud, and you've enabled Jake's lack of responsibility for too long. The hardware store is failing because it's being run by someone who doesn't understand business and doesn't want to learn. Ethan has the vision and skills to save our family legacy, but more importantly, he has the character to do what's right. I've watched him send money home despite your coldness, offer help despite your rejection, and maintain his dignity despite your favoritism. This inheritance is not a punishment for you, but an opportunity for this family to heal. Ethan, I trust you to make the right decisions, both for the business and for your family. You have always been the best of us. With love and hope for reconciliation, Robert Cross." The letter ended, and the room fell silent again. I looked at my family, really looked at them, and saw something I'd never noticed before. They weren't angry at me for leaving. They were afraid. Afraid that I'd succeeded without them. Afraid that Grandpa's judgment of them was accurate. Afraid that they'd lost something precious through their own actions. Mom was crying quietly, and even Jake had slumped back into his chair, the fight gone out of him. "I never wanted it to be like this," I said finally. "I never wanted to be estranged from my family." "Then why did you leave?" Dad asked, and for the first time I heard genuine pain in his voice rather than accusation. "Because I felt like I didn't matter to you. Like I was only valuable if I gave up my dreams to serve yours." "We just wanted you to stay," Mom whispered. "The family was splitting apart, and we thought if you stayed, you thought you could sacrifice my future to keep Jake comfortable," I finished. "And when I refused, you punished me for it." Jake finally spoke, his voice quiet and defeated. "I never asked for that. I never wanted you to give up college for me." I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw not the golden boy I'd resented, but a man who'd been struggling under the weight of expectations he'd never asked for. "I know," I said. "We were both trapped by their assumptions about who we were supposed to be." Peterson cleared his throat. If I may, there are some practical matters to discuss. Mr. Ethan, you have 30 days to decide how you want to handle this inheritance. The will specifies that if you choose not to accept it, the money will be donated to a scholarship fund for rural students pursuing technical education. I nodded, my mind racing. $847,000. Enough to completely renovate Cross Hardware, modernize the inventory system, maybe even expand into online sales. Or enough to start my own business, something that combined traditional craftsmanship with modern technology. But first, I had a more immediate decision to make. I want to see the store, I said, and I want to understand exactly what's been happening. Jake flinched. It's not good, Ethan. I've been trying, but... Show me. We drove to Cross Hardware in awkward silence, my parents in Dad's truck, Jake and me in my rental car. The building looked even worse than it had at Christmas, peeling paint, a broken window that had been covered with cardboard, weeds growing through cracks in the sidewalk. Inside was worse. The shelves were barely half-stocked, the floor was dirty, and there was a musty smell that spoke of neglect. Jake walked me through the books, and the numbers were devastating. The store was hemorrhaging money, behind on rent, and struggling to pay suppliers. "Why didn't you ask for help?" I asked Jake as we stood in the empty store. He laughed bitterly. "Pride, I guess. Same thing that made you leave in the first place." "That's not why I left, isn't it?" He turned to face me. "You were so determined to prove you didn't need us that you never looked back." His words stung because there was truth in them. I had been proud, maybe too proud to swallow my hurt and try to rebuild the relationship. "You're right," I admitted. "I was angry, and I let that anger drive me away. But you're wrong about one thing. I did look back. I looked back every day." We stood there in the failing store that represented 4 generations of our family's work, and I felt the weight of decision settling on my shoulders. I could take Grandpa's money and walk away, let the store die and use the inheritance to build something entirely new. Or I could try to save this place, try to rebuild not just the business, but the family that had created it. "Jake," I said finally, "do you actually want to run this store? Not because you feel obligated, not because it's expected, but because you want to." He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I thought I did, but I'm not good at it. I don't understand the numbers. I don't know how to market to customers, and I hate dealing with suppliers. I keep thinking Dad or Grandpa would have known what to do." "What do you want to do?" Another pause. "I like working with my hands, building things, fixing things. I just don't like running a business." An idea began to form in my mind. What if we restructured things? What if instead of a traditional hardware store, we became something bigger? A combination of retail, workshop space, and custom fabrication. You could focus on the craft side, and I could handle the business operations. Jake's eyes lit up for the first time since I'd arrived. "You'd want to work together?" "I think Grandpa would have liked that," I said. "But it would mean both of us admitting we were wrong. You'd have to accept that I know things you don't, and I'd have to accept that I can't do this without family." We talked for 2 more hours, walking through the store, imagining what it could become. By the time we locked up, we had the skeleton of a plan. The conversation with my parents was harder. They were waiting at the family home, sitting in the same kitchen where they'd decided my future without consulting me all those years ago. "We owe you an apology," Mom said before I could speak. Reading Grandpa's letter, we realized how badly we handled things. "We were so focused on keeping the family together that we drove you away," Dad added. "That's on us, not you." I sat down across from them, feeling like a child again, but also like the adult I'd become. "I want to come back," I said. "Not to the way things were, but to something new. Jake and I have been talking about renovating the store, turning it into something that honors what Grandpa built while adapting to the modern world." "You'd move back to Cedar Falls?" Mom asked, hope creeping into her voice. "Eventually, maybe. For now, I'd split my time between here and Austin. I have a life there, people who matter to me, but I also have a family here, and I'd like to try to rebuild that relationship." Dad reached across the table and took my hand, the first physical affection he'd shown me in years. "We'd like that too, son." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There were still months of difficult conversations ahead, still moments when old resentments would surface, still times when I'd question whether I was making the right choice. But as I sat in that kitchen, looking at my family, really seeing them for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't experienced since childhood. I felt like I belonged. 6 months later, I stood in the completely renovated Cross Hardware and Custom Works, watching Jake demonstrate traditional woodworking techniques to a group of weekend hobbyists, while customers browsed our expanded selection of both traditional tools and modern equipment. The online store I'd built was bringing in orders from across the Midwest, and we'd just hired our third employee. Emma had taken a job with a marketing firm in Des Moines, close enough for weekend visits while we figured out our next steps together. My parents had started treating me like a partner rather than a wayward child, and Jake and I had developed the kind of relationship I'd always hoped we could have. But the most important change wasn't in the business or even in my family relationships. It was in me. I'd learned that coming home doesn't mean giving up who you've become. It means bringing all of yourself to the place where you belong. Grandpa Robert had been right. Innovation and tradition could coexist. And sometimes the best way to honor the past is to have the courage to reimagine the future. Standing in the store that night, surrounded by the tools and dreams of 4 generations of crossmen, I finally understood what I'd been searching for all along. Not just success, not just approval, but the deep satisfaction that comes from building something meaningful with the people you love. I was home.